This video is sponsored by Squarespace. So very recently I made a video talking about my top 10 exercises. I tried to make these exercises that I enjoyed, that I like to give to other people, that I think have amazing benefits. But I also tried to make it 10 exercises that together would offer you a kind of total full body workout that went beyond just the obvious aesthetics or the mirror muscles. At the same time, I tried to pick 10 exercises that you could do mostly anywhere and with minimal equipment. And I think it was largely successful, but I didn't like doing it. It went against my principles because, as you guys know, I'm a training maximalist because I believe that there are just so many aspects to human performance. So I really struggled, I probably cheated, I threw in there some different variations of those exercises, and I even had a bonus exercise at the end. But even then, I still felt like I left a lot on the table. It was still really difficult for me to narrow it down, and yeah, I felt it really sucked, leaving some of my favourite moves out, and I was aware of some glaring omissions. So I thought I'd make another top 10 exercises, this being, say, the second half of my top 20, or top 21 or 22, and because these are the slightly less obvious ones, these are the ones that are really going to take you from, a really good comprehensive program to covering aspects of your performance that really go overlooked in a lot of cases. Without further ado then, let's get started. So the first exercise that I really didn't like omitting is the bodyweight squat. I made a whole video on the bodyweight squat. It's one of my most popular videos. It's one of my favorite movements. I think the bodyweight squat is fantastic for improving your mobility. I think it's a fundamental human movement. It's something we all should be able to do. In fact, we should find this to be a comfortable resting position. And yet a lot of the population can't get into a resting squat position at all. It's going to improve your back squat if that's something you're interested in. At the same time, it's going to improve your athleticism, help you to jump higher, and give you far less chance of injury. It's going to open up your hips, it's going to improve your ankle mobility, all sorts of great stuff. And something I've really been enjoying lately is to just use these partial range of motion bodyweight squats. So I'm just moving up and down in whatever aspect of the range of motion I find most difficult, like this. Because if you're doing a bodyweight squat, then really the top of that squat, it's not offering you that much challenge, it's basically just standing up, which we do all the time. So by moving just here, you're doing all those things I like, trapping the blood and getting it flowing and causing metabolic stress and build up, but at the same time you're improving that mobility in a really mobile and dynamic way. And for me, that has done wonders for my mobility. Then of course, on top of that, you've got all sorts of great variations that I'm a big fan of. I love goblet squats, so grab a weight like a kettlebell in front of you and do squats that way. I really like jumping squats, jump squats, leap up into the air. You want to get better at jumping, which is a cool thing to be better at, just jump more. Anyone who's been using my Super Functional Training 2.0 program will know I like to do these gauntlet sets, these drop sets where I go from jumping goblet squats to jump squats to squats. It's brutal, but highly effective. A very useful tip is try to lead with your tailbone as you move into the lower portion of the bodyweight squat. That will help to reduce butt wink. So you want to go straight down with that tailbone, like trying to drive it into the ground. Next up is glute bridge. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to say about the glute bridge. I made a whole video on it. It's a simple movement. You're lying on the ground and you're thrusting your hips up into the air, making sure to perform a proper hip hinge. And this is what it does. It teaches you to hinge the hips properly. Buddy, come quick. The neighbor's in the garden again. I think he's thrusting. The glute bridge isn't really necessary if you're already doing kettlebell swings or some form of deadlift. We had kettlebell swings in the last video, and especially if you're combining that with some kind of bridge such as the full bridge. But I couldn't not include it because the glute bridge is something that has personally helped me to massively fix my back issues, to better engage my glutes, to improve my performance, and it's something I do program for other people, and I still use it as a part of my warm-up. It's a great way to activate the glutes to make sure that you're then moving correctly through the rest of the workout. Shadowboxing might be something you won't see on many top 10 exercise lists, and that's because, it's dubious whether you could really call it an exercise as such. It's more of a series of different techniques combined. It's a practice, a hobby, and that's just the thing. You don't have to be an amazing martial artist. I'm certainly not, but I really enjoy this as a way to get my heart rate up without question. It's a lot more fun than a lot of other forms of cardio because it's far more cognitively engaging. There's far more to it because, you can hit a bag, or you can hit the air, and you can just make it about pumping out reps to burn calories. At the same time, you can work on your technique, you can delve into how to throw a better punch or kick or whatever, and doing so makes you a martial artist. That's all it takes. Just for you to ask questions like, how do I get my body to develop the maximum amount of power by driving through the hips, etc. It's really interesting. There's so much to learn here Once again, we're moving in the rotational plane, but if you're weaving and dodging from side to side, you're also moving in the frontal plane. And if you're throwing kicks as well, then you've got mobility work in there too, particularly for the hips. It's just fantastic. Sparring is the most cognitively engaging, the most exhausting and the most fun, but not everyone will always have access to a sparring partner. Hitting a heavy bag makes it more into a strength endurance activity, better if you want to build muscle at the same time and explosiveness. Shadowboxing though is great because you can do it anywhere and it's a ton of fun. And by the way guys, Grant just made a tutorial video on shadowboxing. You've seen how this guy moves, you know it's one of the best, a great place to start out if you are interested. Another one that it really pained me to exclude last time was crawls. No 2 reps are the same. When you're crawling, you're dealing with different terrains, different surfaces. You have the regular hand-foot crawl, the bear crawl, which you can perform anywhere. This will train your shoulders, it trains your pecs, your triceps, your core as you keep it engaged, your glutes and your calves. Great for wrist mobility and strength, excellent for building up to calisthenics moves. It's a fantastic form of strength endurance and cardio, and it's brilliant for developing hand-eye coordination and agility as a contralateral move. So much going for it. Wait, no. Now he seems to be cantering up and down like a dog. One of my favourite variations, if you do want to train the pecs, for example, a bit harder, is the lizard crawl. This one is going to bring you lower to the ground. Essentially, you're doing one-armed push-ups whilst also getting in a bit of additional hip mobility there. So that's fantastic. I also really like crawling uphill and downhill. Uphill will train your legs more, downhill will train your shoulders more, and across all kinds of different terrains, like up things that are in your way. If you don't have space to crawl in your living room, great, crawl onto and over the sofa, crawl onto and over the table. If it won't break and your partner won't kick you out as a result. Crawling along balance beams and along bars, this is fantastic for developing your grip strength, your core stability, your balance. And my favourite is to drag a bag behind me, wearing a harness and crawl dragging, which makes it far more of an endurance challenge and much tougher on the calves, on the shoulders, on everything really, even the lats. So yeah, crawling is a fantastic exercise, another dynamic, chaotic exercise for building really durable and resilient strength, really robust movement patterns that work outside the confines of a linear and clinical gym. And once we're down here on the ground, let's also talk about the lateral shoot through. I like to call it a kick through, but there's some confusion around the naming because some people call it a kick sit a kick through, and yeah, shoot through, most people know what you're talking about. Basically, it's where you're in a plank position and you kick one leg through underneath whilst raising an arm off the ground. I like this movement, like many on this combined list, because it's awesome. It looks awesome, it feels awesome, it's fun to do. Do you think we should call somebody? And yeah, I think that's reason enough to do it. At the same time though, it's another movement in the transverse plane and in some ways in the frontal plane. So, you know, it's not enough to just say I'm doing my crossbody kettlebell swings, therefore I'm training my transverse plane. You need more than one exercise to train an entire plane. So this is another great one, and this one's more explosive, it's faster, and if you train with fast intent, which I highly recommend, then you're going to be more explosive in all kinds of rotational movements. In particular, if I look back at old footage of me doing this movement, and then footage of me doing it more recently, I can see a drastic difference, and it's translated to better performance in nearly everything I do. So give that a try. It's also fantastic for shoulder stability, core stability, building that nice oblique look on the side of the abs to create more definition. Highly recommend this movement, and I'll probably make a highlight on this in the near future. With fast intent. Next up is the humble curl. Grab a weight, curl it up. I don't have dumbbells here with me at the moment, so I'm making do with a kettlebell, but of course, dumbbells or a barbell would be even better. I actually quite like that version of the movement though. Now I'd love to tell you that I only do exotic, exciting movements and that something like the curl is, you know, beneath me, but that just wouldn't be true. I like a lot of bodybuilding movements and I particularly like the curls. Curls are the best way to target the biceps if you want hypertrophy there, and let's be honest, a lot of us do. At the same time though, it will also build strength in the biceps, it will also build strength endurance in the biceps, both of which are things that we do actually need. So this is still a functional movement. In particular, if you're interested in wrestling or MMA, then big biceps can help you to maintain a chokehold. Not only to keep it there and have that strength endurance to not let go, but even to apply pressure by tensing the bicep on the windpipe. So there you go, there's a lovely charming fact for you. At the same time, of course, you use your biceps from carrying stuff, in particular heavy bags of shopping, but also kids when they're sitting on the crook of your arm, all sorts of stuff. You do use your biceps. If you do want to make this a slightly more functional movement, then what you can do is to combine supinated underhand curls with pronated overhand curls. And I highly recommend you do this because that way you're training not only the forearm flexors, but also the forearm extensors. And in doing that, you're going to create more balance so that you don't end up with a elbow flare-up, lateral epicondylitis, tennis elbow. Next up, it's the L-sit. So I ummed and ahed between including the L-sit or the pseudo planche push-up, because I'm really enjoying the pseudo planche push-up at the moment. I'm using it to train for the straddle planche, and for the first time it feels like I'm close. I can actually do now straddle planche push-ups, and I'm cheating a little bit because I use a lot of momentum to get my arms into that fully locked out straight position. It's only there for a second, but technically it's a straddle planche push-up. No one's going to take that away from me. So yeah, I am really enjoying that, and it's great for building straight arm strength, even improving the bicep size and the shoulders, but I ultimately decided on the L-sit instead for a number of reasons. So the L-sit will also strengthen your straight arm strength, the biceps tendon, because you should be keeping your arms locked out and trying to drill them into the ground as you go. It's also fantastic for the triceps, and we don't have much targeting the triceps on this list at the moment, so that's a great way to build tricep strength. But at the same time, you're also training your compression strength, your end range strength and mobility by lifting the legs up in that position, which is fantastic for all kinds of other movements, and it's something everyone should be doing. And on top of that, you're also getting scapular depression, pushing downwards through the shoulders. And what this does is it strengthens the lower traps, which are so often overlooked, and strengthening the lower traps will help to prevent you from having dominant upper traps, which results in you walking around with your shoulders up by your ears, which ain't a great look. Also restricts your movement, causes bad posture, can cause upper cross syndrome, kyphosis. So yeah, you want to train those muscles too, and as one of the only ways to do it, that makes the L-sit just too good to ignore. Next up are loaded carries. Loaded carries are fantastic for grip strength, for building the traps. They're also great for hip stabilization, because as you're walking you need to keep your hips nice and level, especially if you're using this over rough terrain, which you can do for added benefit. And in some ways you could call this the most functional movement, because carrying heavy stuff is something you actually have to do. And of course it's anti-flexion, so yeah, carries are fantastic. And for even more benefit, why not do suitcase carries? That means carrying the weight on just one side. He keeps carrying that kettlebell up and down. I think he's trying to decide where to put it, maybe. And this is going to add an element of anti-lateral flexion. So you're trying not to bend to one side. You have to keep your torso even more stable. You have to work even harder with your hips to keep them stable. It's just a fantastic option. Again, it's something that nearly anyone can do. Hang is a fantastic exercise, not only for strengthening the grip, but also in particular for opening up the shoulders, which, as I've talked about on this channel, is something I've had issues with. It's slow going, but I've seen my handstands improve as a result of doing this movement. It's also really good for opening up the spine. You can help this along, by the way, by relaxing the legs on something, which helps you to relax your whole body more so that your spine is less rigid, allowing for more of that decompression. But either way, it's just a fantastic movement, also great for strength endurance, building up willpower. I mean, I would have liked to throw in the horse stance in here as well. Maybe I'm gonna have to do a top 30 exercises, who knows. One more that's fantastic for cardio in particular that I'd like to include on this list is skipping. Skipping or jumping rope is one of the most convenient ways to burn lots of calories, to train your aerobic endurance, improve your VO2 max. It's something you can do outside in a garden, and you can even get ropeless skipping ropes and jump in your living room. You can burn even more calories and build a little bit of muscle even if you use a weighted rope. I use one from Crossrope. Full disclosure, this particular video isn't sponsored by them, but I do work with them often. But it does all these other things for you as well. It's great for improving your rhythm, keeping you light on your feet, which is why boxers love it so much. It actually builds your calves, which is a great bonus because so many people struggle to grow their calves, and this is a good way of doing it almost passively. And it improves your ankle stiffness, which translates to greater explosiveness in sprinting, jumping, and all kinds of other things. So yeah, jumping rope is brilliant. Again, I made a whole video on it, and Grant did a whole tutorial on it on this channel. I highly recommend you check that out if you want to get started. So there you go, guys, that's my list of my next top 10 favourite exercises. There's loads more I would have liked to include on this list, like the one-legged Romanian deadlift, the burpee, pseudo planche push-ups, the bridge, loads more. So let me know if this is something you'd like to see me follow up on in future. Let me know your favourite exercises in the comments down below, and likewise if you want to see me really highlight one of these exercises for a deep dive. If you'd like to see a training program built around many of these exercises, then I highly recommend my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training 2.0. It comes with over 2 hours of instructional footage, as well as an 80+ page ebook. The aim being to build not only strength, but mobility, endurance, even things like reaction speed, focus, balance, proprioception. If that sounds cool, then check it out. Either way, thank you so much for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hey there guys, future editing and admin Adam now, here to speak to you a bit about today's sponsor, Squarespace. So Squarespace is a website building platform that makes it extremely easy for anybody to get up and started with a website. As quite an introverted person, I think a lot, and writing is a great way for me to get my thoughts out onto the page and to organise through my ideas. And I find the very notion of writing kind of romantic in the cinematic sense. I love sitting in a cafe with a coffee, watching the steam rise off of it, and writing. And having a platform like a blog means that you feel like you're doing something with that time, doing something creative and potentially opening up doors and opportunities that you wouldn't even have thought of. Squarespace is the best way for a lot of people to do this because you can genuinely get a website up and running within 10 minutes using their pre-made templates that you can then edit to your heart's desire, using their fluid engine to just intuitively drag and drop elements exactly where you want them. From there though, you can expand your website as far as you want it to go. Some of the biggest brands on the web use Squarespace, so you know there's no limitations in terms of what you can achieve. You've got things like advanced formatting and publishing tools, community features with threaded comments, replies and likes. You can manage your members. You can create gated members-only content as a form of revenue generation. You can sell products from your website using the extensive e-commerce tools. There's social media integration, really anything you can possibly think of, and thanks to the ability to install additional third-party plugins, you can expand this even further. The sky is very much the limit. You can add things to e-commerce like inventory management and global shipping and all kinds of other advanced neat features. If you want to learn more, then head over to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Bioneer to get 10% off your first domain or website. Thanks again for watching, guys. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring. Bye for now.